Do you like movies? Who doesn't, right? I personally think movies can be a great teaching tool. Now, I know what you might be thinking. We can just learn these things in books. And yes, you can. I'm not going to claim that you can't learn these things with books or going to museums. I think movies are a great learning tool. And I want to talk about a few movies that I think people should check out. An awesome way to learn about different things in life. Hi, my name is Jill. Welcome to the A-Mom. Let's get started. I'm going to separate them by their subjects, or how I'm going to see their subject. Some things could technically fall under more than one type of subject that I will mention on each movie if there is another subject that they could technically go under. So a lot of the movies today I have, but some of the movies I just can't find at this moment, and some of the movies I don't have but I'm planning to buy because I think they are really great movies for educational purpose. I'm going to start off with wildlife. So the first one will be Alpha and Omega. You might be thinking, this is silly, this is not at all realistic. And you're right, it's not 100% realistic. But the thing about Alpha and Omega is that they do take animals from different areas and try to repopulate in a certain area. And for a lot of the kids ones, there are a lot of stuff that is not real. And I think you need to talk to your kid about what's real in the movie and what isn't. But that is one thing that I would suggest. Another one that I think a lot of people remember when they were kids is Ferngully. Now, Ferngully is pretty much about deforestation, and that deforestation is not the greatest idea. Arbor Day, this would be a great movie for. Plus, who doesn't want to hear Robin Williams being batty? Come on. My name is Batty. I remember babysitting one of my friend's kids, and I brought this one to her place and watched it with him. And it is Happy Feet. And originally, I didn't really think about it. I kind of was like, okay, it's a fun little movie, he dances. And then I realized there was a huge lesson that a kid is learning from Happy Feet. Spoiler alert, sorry. Gets everyone to dance to try to warn all the other, trying to warn people that they're overfishing and that they were starving. Fly Away Home. This movie is based on a real story. It's actually a Canadian story too, which is great. They find these orphan Canadian geese and pretty much takes care of them and teach them how to fly. A lot of people know the movie Balto. There's a statue of this dog in a park. Yeah, there's a whole thing about Balto. Anyways, Disney actually decided to release a movie about telling the true untold story about Togo. Togo was the actual dog that did the majority of the run. And Balto just pretty much just finished the run. There's that part of me that's like, okay, it has the main character is the dog. So I'm putting it under wildlife. This could be just true stories or something of that sort. Togo is an amazing story. It is definitely for a little bit older kids, not for the really young kids. It is a live action, but it's an amazing story and definitely suggest checking out Togo. This subject would definitely fall for the older kids, and this subject is about war. All kids should learn about war, but I definitely think this is more for the older kids, as this is more of a serious subject, and I feel like they're more likely to grasp and understand the ideas. Okay, so this one could go under wildlife, and it could go under war. Technically, they're both. This movie is called The Bear That's Named Winnie. It's the real story about Winnie the Pooh. So this story is called The Book Thief. Definitely a great one to learn about what they were doing on top of the war. Because I think we get so fixated on just the shooting and whatnot, and, this one kind of explains that there was more than that going on. I know I have this movie, but I don't know where it is. Another one that would go underneath the war that I think is a great movie, and I think it's a great movie because it kind of covers on another subject of war that just didn't get covered by a lot of people in history class. The Monument Men. These men that went into war to just pretty much protect art. During the Second World War, a lot of art was taken away and a lot of art was destroyed. He was trying to pick and choose which art we keep and which art we didn't. And so that way people would only see one part of history. This movie really could fall underneath art or war. It's really, there are two subjects there. As we're talking about art, let's go into that. Loving Vincent. Loving Vincent was an amazing movie. It was all about Vincent van Gogh, and it was done by a bunch of artists that individually painted scenes, and they took his paintings and made a story with his paintings. One thing you might not know about me, I love Vincent van Gogh. He is definitely an artist that I looked at quite a bit when growing up. Anyways, another movie I would suggest to checking out on Vincent van Gogh is some of the IMAX. So IMAX brings, has a bunch of different stuff. This one is called Van Gogh Brushes with Genius. I have to say, the IMAX collections are definitely worth checking out, especially because they're such broad and they are very educational based. As you might know also, it's that I love Disney, so I'm going to kind of put Disney in with the art because it is art. Animation is art. This is one that I'm going to point out is Saving Mr. Banks. Saving Mr. Banks is pretty much about Walt Disney trying to get the rights to Mary Poppins. It is a true story, and you know, it kind of brings light to both sides, and you know, it is definitely one that I would suggest. And with the whole Walt Disney, I actually personally think Snow White would be a great one to put in the list, just because it is the first full-length animation that Disney did. So for Aboriginal or Native Studies, whichever one you want to go by, I want to mention that I have gone to quite a few different Native Study classes. Yes, I cannot speak on behalf of all the First Nations of the world, because I'm not a First Nation. But I wanted to point out some of these movies that have been shown while I was in these classes, and that were really great to kind of open up your eyes to that world. The first one, I have to say, it is very harsh and is not really meant for really young kids, I wouldn't say. It is really scary and upsetting, and the movie really does teach kids about residential schools. And it's called Rabbit Proof Fence. If you haven't watched this movie, watch it. It is, it is heavy, but it is based on a true story. It's based in Australia, and yeah, the same thing happened all across the world. This kind of explains what really happened. And it's horrible. I'm not gonna claim it is horrible to watch because you're just kind of cringing the whole time and saying, oh my gosh, those poor people. This movie was shown to me by one of my teachers, and I pretty much quickly went out and tried to find it. It is a harder movie to find, just FYI. You might be able to find it at the library. They're usually easier to find at the libraries, weirdly enough. I don't know why. Definitely something to check out, especially if you're trying to teach about residential schools. This is definitely a good one. The next movie I have, but I can't find for the life of me for this moment, is Whale Rider. And this is just an all-around beautiful movie. These movies would be, I would put under doing creative writing. And I personally would, certain ones I would let the kids watch all of it, and certain ones I would just go to a certain point and stop it and let them kind of use their imagination and write their story. So this one is for the younger kids. I would totally do this and watch all the way through, but there's parts where Arthur is being gets turned into different creatures. So there's a part where he turns into a fish, there's a part where he turns into a bird. I would ask my kid, what animal would you want to be turned into and why? And then also you could go into more depth of what do you think would happen? What would you experience if you were, turned into a cat or something else? I think that's a fun little creative writing for younger children. Clouds with Chance of Meatballs, I think this would be a fun one because it could be all about inventing. So the main character, Flint, is an inventor and he creates all these weird, wacky inventions. And I personally think this would be a great one with kids and trying to get them to invent stuff. What would you create? What is a problem that you're dealing with or that you think people are dealing with, and how can you solve it? It's a lot about learning about inventing stuff is about problem solving, which is a great thing to be teaching. What would you create? What is a problem that you're dealing with or that you think people are dealing with, and how can you solve it? It's a lot about learning about inventing stuff is about problem solving, which is a great thing to be teaching. And another one I would watch fully through and then ask some fun creative questions with is Mr. Peabody and Sherman. The main question would be, if you could go anywhere at any time, what time would you go to? And this kind of opens up that they could suddenly do a unit study in that time era. The Spiderwick Chronicles. So there's a part where I would watch it all the way up to the point where he gets the book. So there's a part in this movie where the little boy gets a book that has all these mysterious things inside and he opens it up. That's where I would stop this movie. And then I would say, what happens? And let the kids pretty much write the story, the rest of the story. What do they think is going to happen? It allows them to think what could happen or what they kind of wish that would happen. And it's great to kind of do that. And there's a couple more that I'm going to say to do this with. And I'm going to point out where you should stop in my mind. Take it or leave it. You can choose whether you want to stop in those areas. But these are the places I would personally stop and then let them continue. So I'm not talking about Journey to the Center of the Earth, which would probably still be a good one. But actually what I'm talking about is, the one I want to talk about, and this is also a really hard movie to find, is Voyage of the Unicorn. And where I would stop with this one, it's a super fun movie, just to let you know, but there's a part where they're being chased and this magical boat appears. And that's where, after they get on the boat, that's where I would probably stop. Or if not on the boat, I would go to the point where it's like they get changed on the boat. That's where I would, that's where I would stop and let them figure out what else would happen. The next one I'm going to talk about is Mirror Mask. Where I would stop for Mirror Mask is pretty much when she gets brought to her drawn world. She does drawings and she pretty much ended up going into her drawings. And so that's where I would stop, is right when she gets into her world. So those are a few of the movies that I would suggest for education. I know not all of those things, like I said, were education based, but I think you can take movies and kind of turn them into educational base. As parents and as educators, we have to kind of find learning anywhere and everywhere we go. And why not movies? The kids love it. Is there a movie or short film that I didn't mention that you think would be helpful to other people for teaching kids? Let me know down in the comments. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that little bell button. Until next time, stay safe, stay lovely. Who doesn't miss Wishbone? Oh my goodness. Come on, Wishbone. What's the story, Wishbone? Do, 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 do.